Presentation about the central counterparty clearing, what we do in the protection of our market participants to support their trading activity and support their everyday life in terms of the delivery, the supply and demand on the gas side. Before going into the details, we shall go through the kind of evolution of the trading venues in the past and where we are now in terms of CGX, for example, and HODEX. In the ancient era, humanity traded at all times. First, the goods was exchanged against goods. Later on, we had some money substitutes. But the most important thing was that trading is always there between two humans. But it happened on a bilateral basis. So the participants, the seller and the buyer, just met on the OTC market and they contracted each other with their certain and concrete products uniquely. Later on, when more and more seller and buyer met on the market, the forum, for example, in the Greek area, in Rome, there were some new trading venues where the trading venues just operated as a kind of platform for the members to meet each other and to concentrate the sellers and the buyers' activity, so they could manage their assets and portfolios. Later on, of course, in terms of capital market assets, they could manage their transactions better. But these are still not classical exchanges. They are not regulated. They are well regulated, but they are unregulated only. So their rules and regulations are brought by themselves. Later on, when we say an exchange is a regulated or organized market with strict regulatory and supervisory requirements. And then from that moment, we can say that the transparency is much higher, and we can start talking about, for example, reference prices, where all the participants inside or outside of the exchanges may use this price, which is reached throughout the trading. They can use this price as a reference price. All the products and all the rules and procedures are standardized from that moment. But still, there is some missing point. The missing is the centralization of the post-trade part, the clearing. When we move upward, we see that there is one more step to the exchange with the clearing house, which offers some kind of protection, offers clearing services, for example, for the netting reasons, for the position management, and also brings some new efficiency in the system. But we still cannot talk about the highest level of protection because the clearing houses, by virtue, they don't provide strong safety or safe net towards the participants. Only they are acting as a collector of the margins, for example, but they don't provide their own assets. At the highest level and the highest standard, we are talking about the EMIR regulated or EMIR licensed CCPs, together with the exchanges. When this exchange realized that the market participants' best value to have a umbrella under a EMIR licensed CCP, who is providing the highest standards, who is offering its own capital behind the market participants, and also is a very important step towards the potential market developments and the introduction of new products such as derivatives for the markets. Until we are talking about spot market trading or forward trading, for example, with the physical delivery, we don't need, definitely, we don't need a EMI licensed CCP in case we don't want to turn into a financial derivatives driven market. Thanks God, the Hungarian gas exchanges has realized the importance of this and has introduced the CCP regime right after the start of the business. So when we are talking about the markets, we can say about post-trade world, and on the highest level, we have a trading venues. This is an overall picture of the post-trade infrastructure, starting from the trading, with the gas market participants will act as a trading members on the exchanges, on CGX, for example, and they have to sell and buy orders, which will finally match in the trading venue. The trading participant, of course, shall become a so-called clearing member, so a participant of the clearing house, the CCP, in terms of the clearing services provided towards them. So the trading venue will transact, directly send the transactions to the central counterparty, the clearing house, and then all the transactions will be physically and finally settled with the involvement of the transmission system operator, TSO, and through the settlement banks offering their services towards the members. And if we are talking about central counterparty, let's have a insight what it exactly means, what is the role of the central counterparties. Simply say, the CCPs are the entities who are, through the process of novation, interposes themselves between the seller and the buyer. When we are talking about bilateral transactions, the seller and the buyer is directly responsible towards each other for the settlement, for the payment, and also for the delivery. In case of a CCP taking part in the system, the transaction at the end of the day will become two new transactions. One by the seller between the CCP, and the other is between the CCP and the buyer. So whatever happens on one side, at the end of the day, the CCP is responsible for the timely and orderly settlement. Therefore, we can say that the most important function and role of the CCPs to eliminate the counterparty credit risk arising from the participants' operation itself. Central clearing, in this picture, you can see very clearly that we're having more and more participants on the market. If you are a seller company, you carefully select the participant who you want to sell your product, want to sell your gas in terms because you want to have the payment on time, in timely and orderly. So the more and more participants are on the market, the actions, the number of transactions, and the risk of the default increases significantly. In case of a central participant, the central counterparty, this risk eliminated by the CCP itself, so we can better manage the credit risk, we can better manage the market risk through the margining system operated by the clearing house, and of course it brings huge efficiency for the participants because the number of transactions will be decreased in a high level. Just for instance, there are hundreds and thousands transactions exchanged on a daily basis on the capital markets or on the gas markets. But at the end of the day, we have only 50 financial transactions exchanging the money, which is the counter value of the traded volumes. So if we talk about CCP cleared markets and markets without CCP, we can say that what is one additional or added value of the CCPs? We are bringing transparency because we have very clear, transparent rules and regulations. Each and every trading participant treated equally. There are no difference if you are a small company or you are one of the biggest companies, oil companies, for example. Instead, everything is centralized and therefore a structure is fixed and equal for all the participants. But when we think about the first speech of Mrs. Pavlich, there was a question, what happens? Who protects the market participants? Of course, the CCP's most important role is the market protection to protect all the participants who are members of this clearing regime. The default management is technically the most important part by the end of the day, because until all the transactions are cleared and all the transactions are paid in time, we have no issue. Then the clearing and the guarantee undertaking function is seamless. Nobody cares about what is happening behind because nobody experienced any issue on the market. But in these times, when the prices from one day to the other may change and increase 10 or 20%, we believe that the importance of the market themselves and also the market infrastructure service providers, CCPs, increases significantly. From that moment, when a default may occur on the market, it may result in contagion risk and may go default other participants who are still healthy, but in the lack of payments, when they are on the receiving side, they may find faced with liquidity issues or insolvency issues at the end of the day. In this moment, we believe that CCPs are good to have for the market and the market participants, so they are protected against the default of other participants. All the procedures are standardized, so everybody knows what will happen at 9 a.m. and the settlement cutoff time. They will receive the payments for the sold gas. So this is what we bring for our participants, and therefore they can benefit and they can believe that they will start the trading and they will end the trading day in due course, and they will have all the money and all the gas settled with the involvement of the TSO on the other side. In Hungary, FGSZ is responsible for the physical settlements, and in Hungary, KELER CCP is responsible for the financial settlements. So everyone is delighted at the end of the day, and the procedures are done in a smooth and seamless way for you. And as a kind of summary of our activity, we can summarize what is provided seamlessly towards the market participants. The elimination of counterparty credit risk through the whole procedure, starting from the very strict onboarding and continuing in the continuous monitoring of our participants' activity. You can believe that the risk management team is working very hard in order to allow only those participants who have the capability in terms of operational and financial means to meet all the requirements and to continuously comply with the rules and procedures what is related to the physical and financial settlements. We are, as a operating service provider, we are of course managing the timely clearing and settlement procedures, so you can be sure that everything will be done accordingly with very high standards in terms of the IT connectivity between the exchange participants and between our settlement bank or cooperating partners. Everything is very smooth. But what else we provide towards our members? We believe that when we are using central counterparty, the liquidity requirements are also decreasing through the netting procedures, and the exposure is minimized for each and every clearing members since they have exposure only against the CCP, not towards the other participants. So at the end of the day, together with the exchanges who has the CCP on their own and providing the services with the highest standards, they result in a much more trusted and stable economy and environment for the participants, even in case of crisis or times of crisis. What we experience probably now, hopefully we will not. And last, we have a different side from a part of the previous discussion on CCP activity. This is a kind of overall picture of the market landscape within Western, Eastern, and Central Europe. And you can see that in the dark blue, starting from Poland and ending with Italy and Greece on the very right side, there are very few central counterparty providing services for the markets, while on the Western and Central European countries, there are several CCP providing services for energy markets, energy like gas and electricity. We have two very big names, the NASDAQ and ICE, with a strong background from America, and we have one, the ECC, the biggest Central European central counterparty, providing services for the largest conglomerate in exchanges like EEX, the group of Deutsche Börse. On our part, we can see that there are only one other participant, the Polish central counterparty, and a kind of non-EMI licensed CCP, a non-EMI licensed clearinghouse, the IRGIT, which is providing services for energy markets. But KELER CCP, the only one who is acting as a central counterparty and providing services for the local or the Hungarian gas markets, also including the balancing market, which is in these times, it has a very strong importance that the physical part is supported and settled for the physical settlement with the cooperation with the TSO. KELER CCP provides these services for the imbalance positions, which is very unique on the European landscape. Well, we do not know any other CCP providing guarantee undertaking services for imbalance positions. What we see that there are room for development, not even in Hungary, because Hungary reached the highest level, but we see that there are the Ukrainian market, there is the Ukrainian market, there is Bulgaria, there is Romania, where there aren't any CCP providing these services. There have been some actions in the past, and they are also trying to develop their own CCPs, for example, or in different approaches. There is a CGAS project, which is a kind of cooperation between the potential gas markets, and CGIX also as part of this group of market operators. And KELER CCP is potentially willing to provide these services for this CGAS group. So I think in the past 10 years, and starting from 2013 with CGAX, the Hungarian natural gas market has reached its highest level of evolution. We have imbalance market, and we have organized market, and we have a regulated derivatives market together with the cooperation with the CCP. And we believe that this is the best solution for our market participants, who are counting down more than 60 active gas market participants. So in these times, we hope that our presence help you to survive and to continue your activity on the exchanges without any default situation. And we wish good luck for this. That was the presentation on a high level about the CCP activity. So thanks for your attention, and I give back the floor to Robert.